I'm going to be changing the stock sights on my Glock to Trijicon night sights, HDs. So I bought these, and I bought them with a front sight tool. It says it's a Meprolite front sight tool. It's made by Kimber, apparently. So I had a friend who had a sight pusher tool that I was going to use to move my rear sight, and he had kind of a really generic sight pusher, and because of the height of my new sights, his tool was not going to work to put them in. It would wind up marring the top of my new sight, which was something I wanted to avoid. So that's something to think about if you're putting on HDs. The slightly cheaper generic rear sight pusher tool, the threads are going to scratch the top of your rear sight. So quick recap. Started off with my old sights, took my slide off, used a front sight post tool to unscrew my front sight post, took it out, took my new front sight post and dropped a little bit of Loctite onto the threads of the hex nut screw that puts it in there, put on my new sight post, tighten that up, was careful not to over tighten it so I don't shear off the threads. Then I wiped off any extra Loctite that could have been in there. That's pretty secure, it doesn't go side to side at all. Then I went to my rear sight. I used this pusher tool by Maryland Gunworks, pushed it off to one side, brought the new sight in from the same side, lined up the gaps on my little groove there as best I could, and wiped off any extra oil or anything like that could have been in there. And that's it. It's not real complicated, but it does take some time to sit down and do. I was looking at using a wooden dowel or a glue stick or a couple of different things, and when a member of the forum offered to just send me a rear sight pusher, and I was kind of like, what? So Seagrit, I don't know how the hell I say your name, man. He offered to just mail it to me, and I was like, no, I'm set, I think I got it. And then when my friend's tool wound up not working, I took him up on it, and he managed to send me this rear sight pusher tool, which is, I believe, made by, it's MGW, so I think that's Michigan Gunworks, but this is the tool that actual gunsmiths and Trijicon themselves use to put on their sights. So if it works for the people that made my sights, I'm pretty sure it'll get the job done for me. He was also kind enough to send me a front sight tool because he just happens to keep it in the box with the rear sight tool. So how do you actually go about doing this? Well, first off, just because you have your sights and some tools doesn't mean jack shit if you don't have thread locker, apparently. So I went to Walmart and saw some sort of bootleg Loctite, and I was like, I'll buy the real Loctite. I went to the auto store, what was it, AutoZone I think, and they had the same bootleg Loctite. So we're going with Permatex Blue Thread Locker, and I'm going to start with the front sight because, well, I think that's probably just easier. So I've never done this before, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. No, I didn't. Basically what you're going to do is take your slide off, just a normal field strip the way you always would. I've actually had the front sight and the rear sight off on this before because I was expecting my friend's rear sight pusher tool to work, and then we used that after we did the front sight. I'm tired and it's finals week, so I'm slow. And we haven't had dinner yet. My better half is sitting just out of your screen. Love you.
Love you.
So, I take my, I'm using mine because, well, if I don't use it, I'll feel like I paid a little bit extra for it for no reason. Sorry, secret. So I'm going to take that and, where's the little flashlight I had? Oh, hell with it. So basically, if you're looking at your slide, right underneath your front sight post, there's a little hex nut. Oh, there it is. I have no idea how that's coming through. It's probably out of focus. But that hex nut right there, you're just going to grab that with your front sight tool and start to unscrew it. Front sight is off. So I'm going to keep these sights, not because I ever expect to put them back on, just because I like having extra gun shit laying around. It makes me feel special. Just kidding, but really. So now I've got this open hole, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick wipe down with a Q-tip and some Rem oil, because I like clean things, and I'm thinking along the lines that if I know this is clean, then I will have a more flush or straight or fish or blah, blah, flush or straight or better fit to the new front sight post. It's probably totally inaccurate, I don't know. I like to clean stuff, and I don't know when the next time I'm going to have my front sight post off is. Probably never. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my new front sight post, which I really like, by the way. It's I'm not going to do a review of these on video here, but they're Trijicon HDs. The GL1010, which pretty much means that my front sight post has a Trijicon tritium insert in the middle, surrounded by photoluminescent orange paint. Basically, it glows in the dark, and in the day, it's bright orange. And I just thought, damn, that looks awesome. And a lot of good reviews and whatnot, so. Alright. I'm going to set that front sight post on there. Or not. I'm going to pull out some of this blue Loctite, which apparently requires you to cut it to open. Please don't get all over my coffee table. Voila. Alright, this stuff sticks like death, apparently. So it takes a very small amount, or so I'm told. Like I said, I've never done this. And I'm just going to put a really tiny dab on the threads. You probably can't see that on camera. It's tiny. Voila. That should be ample amount. Not that I can manage to get this back in here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is get my new front sight post, set it in the slide, you know what, I should have put the thread locker on at a different time. because now I have to get this hex nut into my tool. Oh man, this is a nightmare. Okay. Where is the... Alright. Now I'm going to hold this slide upside down with my front sight post in place. And I'm going to line this screw up. Okay, I'm going to be careful not to over tighten because I don't want to snap these tiny little threads. So basically I'm just tightening that hex nut. Only finger tight, I'm not trying to kill it here. Alright, set that down. There is no side-to-side play. I've heard people say that there's side-to-side play when you're putting in your front sight post. I don't see any. It doesn't seem to go side-to-side at all to me. But whatever. I should have grabbed a paper towel. So now I'm going to take this and just try to wipe out some of the gunk, the little Loctite that I got on a little spot where it didn't belong. So if you can see, that's the nut that I just changed. And my front sight post has now been changed. So once again, that's the nut I was changing out, and I got a little blue Loctite around it, managed to wipe it off, but that's what you're changing, and it's directly underneath your front sight. So that pretty much takes care of your front sight. Some people recommend putting this upside down in a vise and holding it by the front sight post, and then just tweaking this side to side with the vise so that you can get it lined up properly. I'm not going to do that. If it turns out that it's a problem, I used blue Loctite, not red, so I should be able to get it out of there if I choose to, but it shouldn't come out on its own. I'll go ahead and cap up this blue Loctite. This is the, like I said, I think it's Michigan Gunworks rear sight tool. The one thing that Seagrut asked me a couple of times was to make sure I just put a couple of drops of oil on the threads before I use it. And I'm not gonna just ignore his request when he's donating the tool for me to use. When if I went to a gun shop, this would no doubt cost me a significant portion more. It actually says it right here. Oil both ends of shaft prior to each use. Sight tool number, blah 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 blah, for factory angled style sights. Alright, so factory angle styled sights, what that means is these new Trigicons I'm putting on right here is angled, it's not straight. There's another version of the same tool that's made only for straight sights. Think of Trigicon's traditional night sights. They're just rectangles that shove into place. So this one's specifically made for angled sights. And I'm just going to drop a couple of drops on here. Alright, so the way this tool works is that there's a small base right here, and that mimics the rear rails on your Glock frame. So your slide will slide directly in onto that. You know what, I probably should have put a drop of oil. It doesn't say to put a little drop of oil on there, but there is going to be some stress on that too. And after I'm all done, before I send it back, I'm going to wipe it off anyway. So that mimics your frame rail. your Glock just goes right, slides right on. And then I'm going to tighten this in place. Alright. Give me a second. I'm reading your PM. Alright. Push them out from the right to the left and in from the left to the right. So yeah, I had it. So basically, I'm just going to keep moving this bar. I have no idea if I'm in frame. And that's pushing out my old sights quite nicely. I don't have to ream on it. I don't need a little cheater bar or anything like that. Alright, so I've pushed that almost all the way out. Alright. Now that I have it a decent amount pushed, I'm just going to unscrew my slide and take that out. And then it's just here at the end, pops right out. Now my old sights, which are these terrible cup and ball sights by Glock, I'm just going to throw them in the bag that my Trigicons were in. Oh, Trigicon sends you this awesome sticker if you buy sights from them. I like stickers, but I'm a ridiculous child, so whatever. Alright, so basically, I don't know when the next time I'm going to have my rear sight off is, much like the front sight. I'm going to spray a little Rem oil. Was it Michigan Gunworks?
Maryland.
Maryland Gunworks. Maryland Gunworks. There, so I would say that's pretty good. Alright, my new sights are Trigicon HD night sights. I like them because they have a shelf built into them, so I can rack on a belt or a countertop or, you know, a penguin's beak, whatever I happen to have. I don't know. The other thing I liked a lot about them is that they have a big U-notch as opposed to the traditional square notch like on the cup and ball or like on the Berettas that I learned to shoot on. They're night sights, but they're mostly black during the day. You can see the spots, but they don't glow like they do now. So they look like a black surface when you're daytime shooting, and they look like night sights when you're shooting at night. So I really like that, and I thought it sounded like a quality product. And they're steel, which means they'll stand up. So yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna see how far I can push these in, which is not too far. That's about all I can start them off at, which most of the videos that I've seen say that you should be able to fit them a little further than that. But I'm going to try pushing them in. No, yes. You're allowed to speak, you know. I just cut you out of frame because I figured you'd be weirded out by all the gun forum people that could possibly see you. That means you, gunner. Alright, okay, something to note that I've just discovered myself. Oh, that hurt. Is that my sights are now all the way flush to the rear, which is awesome. It'll give you a longer sight radius, which should lead to improved accuracy theoretically. But what that means is that I need to move my slide a little forward on this platform so that I can press on the part of the sight that's actually going to allow it to be pushed. Now, what I meant when I said these were too high for the cheaper sight pusher is that there was exposed threads the whole length. It was the kind that you have to put a ratchet on, and those exposed threads were dangerously close to moving right into the top sight and grinding on it, and I just was not a fan of that idea. Alright, so this is pushing them on. These definitely push harder than the other ones do to come off, but that's most likely because these are not plastic. So I'm going to sit over here and move these over. Making decent progress. We're about halfway in, I'd say. Just want to make sure that I'm lined up in such a way, or pressing on the right part of the sight. Whew. You do have to crank on this a little bit, but because it's not mine, I'm gonna try to be a little more conscientious, whatever, so that I don't damage the tool I'm using. And obviously I don't want to damage my Glock. Although I've heard that they make a great hammer in a pinch. Yeah, you definitely have to crank on this one harder than the old plastic sights. Seagrut said he had to put it in a vise, and I could understand how that might make it a little easier. Really excited to go to the range and shoot with this after I get it changed. Okay, that's about center, I think, but I'm going to take the slide out. Oh wow, I'm excited. Alright, as far as how do I tell whether or not this is centered, I'm no expert, but I'm going to go right ahead and assume that this gap needs to be equal with the other gap. So if you're looking at that rear sight, you can obviously see that our gaps are not equal. So I'm just going to try to make that look as equal as possible just by eyeballing it. And after that, I've seen on YouTube some people will pull out whatchamacallit, calipers? Not calipers. Forceps. No, forceps is like code word for tweezer. They'll pull out some little thing that measures like micro fucking meters, and they'll check their sights with that and make sure that it's equal gaps on each side. I'm gonna eyeball it, and if I'm unable to shoot straight or shoot properly after I have them what I think is center, I will probably adjust them a little bit more. I think that's got to be awful close. So I'm going to take this Q-tip, just wipe some of the extra oil that came off the sight pusher off of it. Get a sight picture with her. Huh. Like it. Really like that. You want to take a look? Alright, so the next thing I want to check, I'm going to definitely edit this video down. The next thing you want to check for having just put your sights on, these Trigicons are definitely taller than your stock sights are. How much taller is kind of hard to say, but they're tall enough that I'm going to double check that it fits in my holster. Alright, so that's changing your front sight post and changing your rear sight. I gotta take this out, shoot it, I'll let you know how I do, and the accuracy department, and I'll also let you know whether this aims sight picture 1, 2, or 3, like at the start of my sight picture, guys. it's big and it's comfortable, and that orange front sight post really stands out. I'm pretty happy. Alright, so that's all I've got. Big shout out to Seagrut for the pusher tool. Spent his hard-earned money to send it to me. The least I can do is say, hey man, you're awesome. So, hey man, you're awesome. So that's all I've got. Once again, Coreman 257 from NY Firearms. Support the Tresmans and have fun shooting, I guess.